Just to both of you, congratulations. A job well done.
Thanks, Bruce.
Leigh, did it go absolutely to plan?
Well, when you think of it in retrospect, probably the year did. When you think of it, we got onto yesterday's game with our best side on the field, all match hardened and match fit, and really you can't expect much more than that to produce your best. So we feel very fortunate for that.
Tony, it really has been a dream year because I think a number of players, including yourself and Peter Dacos, have probably played their best footy this year, plus Mullane and Brown and Chris Siska and Maguire. You can go on and on and on. It's really been a stellar year for Collingwood, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think we've been fairly consistent. I think that's the main thing. We haven't lost many games, and when we have lost, they haven't been by big margins. So, yeah, the boys have put in a lot of work over 8 months, and you know, it came good yesterday. It was fantastic.
One game you did lose by a big margin was Hawthorn, about 3 weeks before the end of the season. Leigh, did you have any second thoughts that day? Because you'd lost to Essendon the week before, and Hawthorn really slaughtered you, didn't they?
Well, that was the one game we were slaughtered, and I was pretty happy when they went out of the fight, because every time we play Hawthorn, Jason Dunstall kicks 8 or 10 goals on us. But, you know, anyway, they can only go against the opposition, but they sort of that one team.
Leigh, Damien Monkhurst has had a terrific year, but the previous 2 weeks to yesterday was down a bit. Did you do anything special this week to help him get back to some good form?
Well, we did one little thing, and, you know, I don't mind. Robert Walls said to me at the Brownlow the other night, he said, I think it was one of his players was a bit down on form pre-87 finals, and he said, we got a tape together of his highlights just to try and get his confidence up again. I thought, well, that's a good thought. And we did that. Nothing apart from that, really.
Leigh, you possibly haven't had time to reflect with that missed kick of Peter Sumich. How much did that mean to Collingwood?
Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, so many things happen over the year that you don't know what would have happened. If he'd kicked the goal, we would have obviously had to go back to the first semi. You don't know what might have happened. But, you know, I mean, when you go through a finals campaign, the little bit of sort of luck, or not luck, but the close margins. I remember in '83, when Hawthorn won the grand final really easily, I think the qualifying final against Fitzroy, they were 3 points behind with a couple of minutes to go and got the last kick. So, you know, you can't, these things come and go.
Tony, it must be a fantastic inspiration to the other players to have a player playing, well, suspected broken thumb for all that time, Darren Mullane. It must have been great for the other players, that example.
Oh, Pants has been fantastic over the final series and over the year, matter of fact. And, you know, he's been in a lot of pain for the last 6 weeks nearly. And, you know, I think all the players looked up to him, and they knew what he was going through because he had to have injections before every game and bandage and then put in plaster. So, you know, he has been an inspiration to him, but there's been a lot of other blokes too around the club who have, you know, a lot of blokes play with a few injuries and that, but he was under a lot of duress, yeah.
Tony, what about, we just talked about this little bit of a melee that seems to happen in all of these final games. Now, it happened against the West Coast on your replay. Do you believe in that psychological advantage at a bit of an altercation or a dust-up?
Well, maybe against the West Coast, they were, you know, inexperienced in finals. It might have unsettled them, but against Essendon, I don't think that really comes into it because they've had finals experience. And yesterday, it was, you know, grand finals are things where it's the last game of the year and everything, the result, you know, everything depends on that. So, you know, it just started off and really it did a lot of pushing and shoving, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Well, Tony, you're the first captain to win the Norm Smith medal. You had a wonderful game yesterday. We're about to have a look at some of your highlights. It must be terrific not only to win, but to play very well at the same time. Yeah,
I was happy first half, but I thought I died out in the second half. You know, my running's been pretty good, and I think one thing was diet this year. I looked after a bit there where I normally, you know, I like a beer and I like what I eat too, so I've looked after myself there, and it's probably come pretty good. But yeah, just being a good side, if you can't play well in winning sides, you never play well.
I think it's interesting you say you died out in the second half. It was hard to pick a Collingwood best player yesterday, like it was in the second semi, which is, I think, significant when you look at the overall team performance.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Consistency around the ground, and these blokes are really fit, and you know, in the end, we probably thought, you know, their preparation hasn't been as good as what they want, and we knew if we were close at three-quarter time that we might be able to outrun them, and it was just that we were ahead at three-quarter time, so we were in a better position than what we really wanted to be.
Leigh, we've all heard about Ron's famous 5-year plan, but there was a nice article about you the other night where it said that from 45 players you'd got rid of about 21 or something of them as a plan. Is that a true statement, a fact or anything?
No, I think that's a bit exaggerated. I mean, I think any league club in 1987, if you looked at them in 1990, there'd only be half still there.
Yeah. Were there specifics that you looked for, though?
Oh, no, I think you do it by the seat of your pants. I mean, as guys, Well, it's part. I mean, there's one saying: you can't replace a guy until you've got someone better to replace him with. I think that comes into it. So I mean, it's just a gradual process, I suppose. And the club has provided through the draft and other means some good talent and young guys coming through and the experienced guys who were the nucleus prior anyway.
Can you hold up with the draft as it is? Can you hold your team together with the draft as it is, bringing in, you know, new players with a draft?
Yeah, well, obviously holding the side together is now easier because it's very difficult for players to change clubs.
Yeah.
And the drafting system is sort of like fair to all, but that's a long-term mechanism, the draft, to moving it up.
Yeah.
Okay, Leigh, we'll come back to this interview in a moment, but let's go out to